folks, and welcome to my channel. I will apologize right now before we even start this video. I'm filming this right in the middle of some people call it a class X. On my phone, it's class X, the most severe. Some people call it class 3. It's red, it's a solar flare, and it's huge, and it's happening right now. So yes, I'm going to try my best to get through this video, but I do apologize if I go a little bit foggy or a little bit tangenty. We're going to have to expect more of this. Anyway, welcome to my channel. Welcome to this next video. The idea of this video came to me, I think it was in my last Reiki session that I received myself. And I was visited by the spirit of an old school friend that I had who was murdered, kidnapped, tortured, and murdered. And when she came through in the Reiki session, she wanted me to share her story via a video. And I must admit, at the time, I was like, I don't know why. I kind of know why. And I felt uncomfortable with it because for although she was a school friend, she wasn't somebody that was like my sister, my auntie, my mom. And I felt, is it really my story to tell? But in actual fact, it is my story to tell because there's an aspect of it that is part of my story. And had I not known her, I would not have had this experience. And the more I've pondered it over the past few weeks, I've thought, hmm. But I'm always a great believer in some of these videos. We may get a pulse for them, but there's always a right time. Then I had a dream, I think it was last weekend, and I got really pulled into this story again, and I realized I needed to somehow bring it through. But I'm still not sure because I didn't just want to come here and talk about something. So I pulled some cards on it, which is this deck here, the Golden Tarot by Cat Black. And I pulled some cards on what it was meant to teach me. I pulled some cards on the situation, and I pulled some cards on where the people that did the crime are now. Well, not from a personal level, energetic, because I was intrigued. Um, and I got this spread of cards in front of me, and I was like, interesting. And it's interesting that this comes also after Amy Winehouse channeling, where she talked about forgiveness being a 3D aspect and that it's not about forgiveness. It goes much deeper than that. And that actually forgiveness can cause a trigger. Um, that Amy Winehouse channeling was a good one, by the way. Clear the throat. Um, and the cards that came up, I can't remember what they were, but one of them was Four of Cups. It was all incoming messages. It was all incoming angels and incoming energy and new energy. Ace of Cups. Intermingled with a bit of anxiety, possible addiction issues for some of them. There were five of them, five teenagers at the time. They'll all possibly be my age or a little bit older now. And I was like, interesting. And straight away I got that no matter how dark a situation, no matter how dark a person is, no matter how dark what they have done is, the light will find a way to break through the membrane. And that's what we're going to expect more and more of. But because we know, and it's ironic that I'm doing this in the middle of a big energy shift as well on 1010 Portal. And I'm sure her birthday, my friend's birthday, was the 9th of October as well, which again, you can't make it up. That as these energy shifts come in, we're going to be required to release a lot of our old stories and a lot of our deeply, deeply, deeply traumatic stuff. Um, and some of you are going to, well, all of us are going to embrace it at some point, but it's going to be a conflicting experience. Then we did the tarot scope, not the tarot scope, the tarot reading for today at the time of filming. So it was Thursdays where it just went off on a tangent and it kind of brought in this message, but I didn't want to go deeply into it. That a lot of the time we can get blocks in our healing because we haven't been able to fully let go of the trauma. And you see a lot of that online, don't you? We see a lot of it. To let go of it to a point where you no longer see them as the baddie or the evil one, or demonic or whatever they've done to you that holds that frequency. Um, when you can see the divine in me sees the divine in you and you genuinely mean it. So before I go any further with this story, I'm going to put some content warnings out simply because I know some of you have anxiety issues and children about grandchildren. So I'm going to break into the story of this person now as less info as possible, but I can't, once I get on a tangent, we know what happens. So if you're not in if you're in an anxious, agitated, exhausted state, if you've got children, grandchildren around you, switch off and come back to it at a later date. So I feel as though I need to get back into this, get back into that was interesting. I feel as though I need to get back into the story. So let's go do some time traveling into 1998. And I'm glad that I actually said back into the story because there was a point where I literally lived this story. I'll share briefly what I'm happy at sharing. The stuff I'll share is already in the newspaper, so I'm not breaking any confidences. I'm not gonna name her. I'm not gonna bring names in. Some of you may even realise, because I know some of you did grow up in the same areas that I did. Um, and I'll also talk about my how it affected me and how it impacts you and how we can go forward with these serious wounds that we have. Not just we've been dumped, not just, I mean, trauma. So in 1998, my old school friend, I have to stall as well so I don't start giving names out. My old school friend was an 18-year-old schoolgirl. She had schizophrenia, um, possibly epilepsy, I think at the time, plus other issues as well, other stuff going on. She was a vulnerable girl, a vulnerable, trusting girl. So she left her home and went for a walk, and walked through a part of Leeds that is rough, rough as in, um, it's an area. It's Leeds 15. No, it's not Leeds 15. Leeds 9. Although Leeds 15 isn't far behind it at times. Leeds 9, which is known as the Lincoln Green Estate. Well, aspects of it are known as the Lincoln Green Estate. And she came across a group of teenagers who were all sat on a wall. I think a couple of them knew of her from school. And as she's coming across the road, the people that knew her, the teenagers, so they were from the age of the youngest was 15, and I think the oldest was 21, I think. Um, and they said basically, she is vulnerable. Let's lure her to the flat and take her jewelry. So because she knew some of the people there, when they said hi, she said hi back. She went to school with them. And she wanted to know where her boyfriend was, and she said, "Have you seen X?" Um, so they said, "Oh, strange that he's at the flat." And they took her back to the flat. And I think it was over a week's worth of torture, that was a phone buzzing, was carried out. Thought I'd turned it off. Sorry, a week's worth of torture was carried out at the flat, um, council flat in Leeds. Um, Jewelry stolen, other people coming into the flat. I think I think there was more involved, but some of them went to report it and weren't listened to. It was a horror. I mean, you know, back in 90s West Yorkshire, where you were from a certain class, you weren't listened to. So these were all have been working class people and kids with reputations as well. So in that flat, there were various things carried out. She was given bleach to drink. Her hair was set on fire. She was beaten up with a snooker cue to a point that her eyes blew out of her face. She was put behind a sofa. Anyone that visited the flat, the music was played too loud, so they couldn't hear her whimpering. And then eventually, she was also burnt with an iron. Cigarette stubbed out on her as well. I need to be careful here because I'm forgetting I'm talking at YouTube. You see, this is all your fault, you see, because you all treat me like a friend. So I'm thinking I'm in your living room now, which I am, but I'm also on YouTube. Apologies, YouTube. Um, and then they smothered her with a plastic bag, obviously killed her. And then they put her in, they stole a car and they went and they buried her in a shallow grave. To get her into the grave, they jumped on the body. In the meantime, obviously, people are starting to look for her. And her mum went to the police station and said, my daughter's missing. And the lady on the desk said, don't worry, it's not as though she's going to be found rolled up in a carpet, of which, ironically, she was. She was rolled into a carpet and she was placed in a shallow grave. Um, and then the story that from I can remember, one of the lads that did it was then rang a taxi a few days afterwards and was sat in the back of a taxi boasting. But what he didn't realise was that the taxi driver knew the family and then had to go and say, I've just had this horrible experience with somebody in the back of my car. And I think A, B, C, D, E, I think we've got an issue and I think she's possibly dead. Obviously, then police were sent in to unearth the shallow grave, and it went from there. And it was an horrific time, and I'd obviously never come across anything like it in my life. And as the story went on, that is the bare basics I've just told you. It was horrific, and it rippled across Leeds. I'd say for years. The family devastated. I don't think the family ever really pulled themselves back from it. I don't think you can. You can, you can. There is always hope. There is always hope. But I think there were the after that, lots of things came in to carry on knocking the family down as well. I mean, there was one aspect where the mum had to prove to the courts that the girls were wearing her dead daughter's jewelry because they said the girls that killed their mum said, well, they've got pictures of wearing her jewelry. So the mum, whose daughter was killed, had to prove it was. I mean, honestly, systems corrupt. System is questionable. Um, so yeah, and how it affected me as a teenager was profound, to be honest. Profound, horrific nightmares, horrific anxiety, comforting, isolation, shock. I mean, that kind of stuff back in the 90s, you just didn't hear of. I know it's not a perfect world. You know, people can talk about the past as it perfect. But that was the first time I'd ever really heard of anything sinister like that. Um, I was born after the Peter Sutcliffe stuff, so I missed that, even though I'd heard all the stories. And I had anxiety for years. I won't go anywhere without a lift. Every street corner, walking down the street at dark, um, looking under my bed as an adult woman for the killers. True story. Up until hmm, early 20s. So we're talking 21-ish, 2-ish. From I would have been, so it was 98, so I would have been 16. And not we're not wanting to stay out because you can't trust your friends. You don't want to go to a sleepover because you know that sometimes, school friends, it all changed. Boyfriends late to the show with all of that. Um, and I went for therapy and therapy worked. And then obviously I found this path and this was when it started to work. And I started to go down the Reiki route with it, started to go down the shamanism route with it, starting to realize that there'd been soul contracts here, that there was a reason why I needed to experience that there will be clients, watchers that have horrific things that need to. Because when you're going through horrific things, you feel like you're the only one in the world. You can feel contaminated. You can feel like nobody else has ever gone through this. And especially when you watch people on YouTube, it can all look very shiny and sparkly and high high vibe, and it's not like that. There's a backstory to it, and many people don't want to share the backstory to it, or they want to hide from the backstory. But the backstory is really important, and that's just one aspect of the backstory. And as I healed it and investigated it and explored it, I learned so much about entities. So these kids would have been under the influence of entities. They were under the influence of drugs and drinks, so that would have played a role in it. There was also abuse there for some of these. So there's a story. My mum's, it was all interconnected. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody back then. People don't now, do they? But they did back then. So my mum's best friend knew one of the mums of one of the lads that killed her, yeah. And she was telling a story about how, as a little boy, he used to run around the table. And one time his nana said to him, "Stop doing that. You'll knock the tea over and burn us." He stopped, he picked the cup of tea up and threw it at his nana. And he was laughed at and clapped. He was a little boy. And when I heard that story, I mean, back then, when I heard that story, I didn't know about shamanism or anything like that. But I remember thinking, well, that's the start of something sinister. And as it came on, more and more of them came from backgrounds of serious abuse, sexual abuse, exploitation, poverty, addiction. And all of a sudden, a story starts to form where there's not just one victim in that flat, there's six at least. And I know there's various different levels of being a victim in that flat. And as I've gone on my adult journey and my healing journey, and I've realized the bigger picture of what makes things happen, past life influences, of which there is some, um, needing to experience things to learn from things, of which there is things. Um, it's put a different spin on it. It's put a very different spin on it. It's suddenly gone very cold in this. It's suddenly gone very cold round here. Um, so obviously, so when the spirit of her came forward, I was a bit, how would you share that on YouTube and in what? Because I don't just want to talk about something and it just be a video. But as we go on in this evolution of consciousness, we're going to be required to revisit the past, to to revisit it, to talk about it, to process it, to understand it. And you may need to keep doing it to go to deeper, deeper levels and higher levels. And then you start to realize that all of these events that come into your life are actually really big teaching moments and they're actually gifts. They're actually gifts. Um, and that the world wasn't perfect. The world had many dark, dark things, and many people have gone through dark, dark things. And, when we talk about the healing and the ascension, a lot of people are coming to it, like myself and like many of you that have gone through Dark Night of the Soul. And you see a lot of the happy clappy, namaste, peace, love, man. And that's all great. And yeah, namaste. And namaste is important. And you might even call this video namaste. But we've also then got to process that heaviness. How do we process that heaviness? Is to understand what seeds the heaviness, what seeds the darkness, what really caused the darkness, and to then unravel the old stories around the darkness, as in they are scumbags, they are whatever, whatever, whatever. I hope they throw away the key, I hope they get locked up, throw away the key, etc. And those stories are all right when we were in the old earth and we all kept them up. They made us ill. They gave us dis-ease. I've had much dis-ease within the body, not big crazy stuff, but a lot of dis-ease within the body. Weight gain is dis-ease within the body, of which I am getting on top of for the first time in 500 years. Um, and in order to heal and become the healthy vessels that we need to be, those old stories need to go. So many of you will find that you will have horrific things that have happened in your life, and maybe you've got to this point and you're like, God, yeah, I actually think about them now. And it's interesting because as I was talking, I felt quite shaky because I went back. Ah, that's interesting. I went back into that old energy, that timeline. But when I talk about them from the current timeline, I don't feel shaky. I don't feel I actually could sit in a room with one of them, to be quite honest. If one of them, I don't think they'd ever book in for a session, but imagine if they did. Imagine if they had, imagine if one of them's watching now. You don't know. I don't know who watches me. Um, what would you say to them if they are? So if you are daily meditation, off drugs, off drink, therapy, if there is addiction issues going there, Reiki, regular Reiki, shamanic healing, all of it, do it if you're watching. Um, and knowing that there is so much more to these stories within our world, within our own personal life, within our own personal world. Um, that you may get to a point where you're ready to release something. What's the word? Let's stop trying to use and forgive, Claire. Release something. And somebody close to you can't understand it because they're still holding the old stories. That's fine. Because what we mustn't do going through this is saying, yes, but I've seen this, I felt this, I've been told this in a healing ceremony, I saw this in an ayahuasca journey. Yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. What you've been shown, what you've seen is for you. You can talk about it, but if you try and talk about it and it woof, and it causes a flare up, step back from it. This is about your own peaceful journey and the choice that we're all having to make in relation to those old stories, those old traumas. And you know something, when you can start to see why, the real reason of um, why the child abuser became the child abuser, why the child murderer became the child murderer, it's so freeing and liberating. And, sometimes when you go through your past life investigations, you find out that you did something similar. We've all done it. We've all done everything. We've all been everything. We've all been every religion, every skin color. We've been every belief system. We've lived in every country. By the time we finish, we've lived in every country. We've experienced everything. You experience every emotion possible numerous times over. So let's pull some cards on it. So I'm feeling drawn to these cards. So I'm going to be using Golden Art Tarot by Cat Black and the Quantum Oracle by Sandra and Taylor. Just pull some cards into relation. I'll be glad when these energies settle down, but are they going to settle down? I think I might be filming a video after this about that. Oh, do you know something? There was a card that I felt slipping out of the deck and I pushed it in. And I thought, and I heard, no, Claire, and I was going to carry on shuffling. No, Claire, look at that card. It's important and it's justice. Balancing the scales. Justice is the karma clearing card. It can also come up in divorces with clients and clients that are going through court cases and stuff. But this is justice, and this isn't just me feeling this. This is many of you feeling it also. But it's also personal stuff. It's also collective stuff as well. The Fool, the new beginning, the new beginning. There has to be balance for us to be able to bring in the new beginning. He's got his drum, the shaman's drum. I'm not sure if it is a shaman's drum, it's a drum. But the shaman uses a drum, or the shamanic practitioner, to clear an itchy nose, to clear energies, to balance energies, to bring in new energies, to clear things, to journey, to explore, to go to higher realms. So taking it away from my story now, we'll put that there and we'll let that, you know, do whatever it needs to do in this video for people watching. This is about collectively where we go with this baggage that we've been carrying is to allow it to be cleared. We're going through extreme weather conditions at the minute as well, solar flares, geomagnetic storms, eclipses, equinoxes, solstices, 10-10 portals, 11-11 portals, 8-8 portals that are getting more and more intense. So a lot of this is happening without us even realizing it, if that makes sense. We're having these weird dreams, feelings of great outpouring of love, feelings that we've never experienced in our life coming back on grid. We can also be having the other where we feel the hatred coming up. We feel the frustration coming up. And this is balancing the karma, balancing the imbalance. How did we get to here? Um, Six of coins, what did we put out in the universe for us to get this? Why did I need to experience this? I know I needed to experience that. It's also teacher as well. That's interesting. I'm seeing people in pre-incarnation, and we're all sat there and saying, I want to learn this, I want to learn that, I want to learn that. I want to experience this. Because the truth is, you cannot become a healer from a textbook. There's lots of textbooks, there's lots of great teachers, great classes out there that can teach you, the basics. But a healer, it comes from your own trauma, it comes from your own pain. Um, it's the same for anything, you have to have lived it. And this is why people come into incarnation and choose to experience certain things because they need to experience it, either for their work, for their story, to remind them of something they're meant to be different in this past life. Maybe experience something that's meant to switch on that you're going to be different. That maybe in a past life you were the abuser, you come into this life and are abused, and it's go, yes, I've got to be something different in this life. This is a really complex thing, but everything we go through is the teacher. And I genuinely feel that once we get to a point where we stop viewing people as evil, bad, etc., and just humans on this human experience, then we start to birth in, then we can start to go a bit higher. We can start to birth in and hold much more of these frequencies. There's a book I'm reading at the minute. I can't remember what it's called. Where is it actually? Oh, it's there. It's not you. It's about narcissism. It's just down there. And I'm really struggling with it. It's got nothing to do with the book. But I'm really struggling with the whole narcissism thing at the minute because I'm feeling it's keeping a lot of people anchored and it's kept me anchored. There's a lot online at the minute about narcissism, and I know it's ripping people apart, and I know it's ripping workplaces, the world apart, to be quite honest, families, etc. But it's also holding a lot of people anchored in the old stories. So and so and so's an arc. People are now getting called an arc when they're not. It's just that they've not been a great parent. It's just that they're not a great boss. And I think it's holding us down. And I was thinking about this at lunchtime, and the guides came in and said, every time I mean, you see a lot of people constantly talking about narcissistic abuse and calling people narcissists. Every time we say it, we're embodying that energy. We have a pandemic of that N word, don't we? Narcissism. We have a pandemic at the minute. And this throwing out, even if somebody is, even if somebody has actually been diagnosed, is it our job as humans to be going, they're an arc, they're an arc. They're doing this because they're an arc. They're always doing this because they're an arc. They're doing this because they're an addict. They're an addict. This is addict behavior, is this? This is exactly what an addict does. We're doing it a lot, and we have to step away from the old stories. They're a murderer, they're an addict, they're an arc, they're a sociopath. Because it's really, really holding back the healing and the awakening. Um, and it's needing to break free of it. Um, because what I'm also hearing is we're creating it. We are creating it. And that may be really triggering, but we are creating it. And we're making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you have the healing moments where you really step into your heart consciousness and you feel it, you've had a great Reiki session, or you've had some cacao, or whatever you've had or done, or you've had a crystal bath, I don't know, or a walk in the woods, and you feel your heart opening, that's where we're meant to be getting all of the time. And in that moment, you don't want to call anyone an art. You don't want to call anyone toxic or whatever, because it doesn't exist. In that moment, it doesn't exist. In the reality that the heart is involving you in, it doesn't exist. It's an old story in the 3D matrix, the 3D false matrix. Um, and we need to start looking for wiser teaching with this. Um, it's almost like we've got to a stage where Spirit have said, let them be. Just let them go through this in the way they need to process it. But now it's almost like we've got to a point where, you know what, guys, people on Earth, you need to just become better, step more into the heart. We've all done it. I've done it. Three of Cups, coming back together as a community. Yeah, or Five of Coins, the poor me card. This old energy is what we're trying to purge. What we're trying to purge. And a lot of it comes from past lives as well that we don't even remember. Because you don't remember all your past lives. You're not meant to, actually. You're not meant to remember everything. You'd overwhelm yourself, you'd burn yourself out. Which is why when you see people on the spiritual path that do too much too soon, they burn out. But we're trying to purge this. We're trying to release it, to make sense of it, to see the deeper meaning in it. Also, as well, interesting, who in your life is wanting to keep you in that poor me energy? So, say you've got an issue with a parent, and rather than trying to be of service to you and be of support to you, they encourage you to get them told, tell them straight, you don't need them, walk away, do. And I'm going to get blasted for that. Well, what about if your parents have done this? Again, this is a video, it's not a personal one-on-one session. Um, but there are people within our lives that can really goad you to make a bad situation worse, rather than saying to you, look, you know that person's in pain, or you know that person, there's an issue there. It's not about you. They're doing this with everyone. It's not, and trying to show you a higher perspective. They don't encourage it. They can really manipulate it behind the scenes. Also, as well, you may say to someone, do you know what? I want to build a bridge with that person. I'm ill or I'm dying, and I want to build a bridge with that person. And the other person may say to you, don't. Always be wary of people that don't want you to build bridges. Always be wary of people that don't want you to evolve and heal and enlighten and expand your heart chakra and expand your heart center. Um, of people that want to keep you here, or anything that wants to keep you here, drink, drugs, pain, whatever. Be interesting to see what comes next. Yeah, the Four of Coins keeping stuck. That's interesting. I've also got a vision of some people being held in situations and not being able to get out of them because they've not learnt the lessons, and they're feeling it really strongly right now. So it could be a job related. I won't go through what it could be, but you're being kept where you are because the lessons haven't been learned. And don't even ask me, well, what lesson is it? It's the lessons that need to be learned. It could be that you've had spent many lifetimes just putting up and shutting up and putting up, and that's why you're still in that job. And the minute you go, I don't need to be here. And then you go, oh, yeah, but what about your money? What about your money? That's your abundance wounding. Ah, abundance wounding coming up there. So I've got an abundance wounding to sort out. I've got this put up and shut up energy to sort out. And then you can start unraveling it and exploring it and releasing it and making sense of it. But many people are stuck where they are at the minute because they've not learnt the lessons. Um, Also, as well, why things are coming in really heavy. There's a thing I was reading last night that the other 12 steps that AA do. Well, apparently there's a step that where you have to say, and what, don't quote me on my phone. No, I'm not going to start getting my phone out. What something about making peace with your role in it, and apparently it's causing triggers because it's making people look at their role in their trauma, and that's so unhealthy. What? I actually quite like that step. Um, because why did I get to this point? Why did I get to this point? What vulnerability in me made me think she was attractive when she keeps me away from everything? What vulnerability in me thinks he's attractive when he won't let me have any money, when he puts my looks down? What vulnerability in me thought that was attractive at the time? Because there will have been signs of it and pulses. Everything is energy. Um, Interesting. What's the next card going to be? Eight of coins. And when we can go down this and explore this is how we can start getting the job done. And we can start coming out of this darkness and making sense of it, making sense of the darkness to be able to let the light in. Because that's interesting. I just want to get out of this darkness. I want to get out of this darkness. Right now, where I'm sat in this evolution of consciousness in this universe, there is dark fragments, there's light fragments, all happening. You're in amongst it all. You could be in a supermarket in an aisle waiting to pay for your shopping, and the woman behind her has just found out her child's been abused. That's it's a heavy energy. It's all around us. So it's not about escaping the dark. It's about being able to find equilibrium in it and balance in it to be able to let the light in. It's this letting. Are you gonna give the light permission? God, she gets there in the end. Are you gonna give the light permission to come into that trauma? I could have said, you know what? I'm not looking at those cars. It is disgusting what they did. They're getting this light after what they did. 10 years ago, I probably would have been saying that. Do you know who I would have been damaging in that moment? Not them. The girl herself is gone, and I know she's gone. Me. That's who you're damaging. Are you going to let the light in so you can then start to really recover and rebalance and find your purpose? Many people don't know their purpose in life, and that's so sad. Why am I here? Why are you not letting the light come in to tell you why you're here? But you know, it's Page of Wands. Path of wisdom I get when I look at that. Path of wisdom. I'm also getting that there's this frequency on the planet right now that's possibly coming in with this year. This year, let's face it, has been. I have right up until doing this video, switching everything on. I've been, this year's been. But actually, sat here with the sun blaring in that conservatory room there, and the frequency of that light of which I can see, and the brightness and the colours of the light of which I can see. I can see why all this year was what it is, personally and collectively, because this is a reset, not a great reset. What is it they're all planning? What they're planning? Is it a great reset? One New World Order, wasn't it? It was the order. Yeah, it's good. It's a reset, not their reset, our reset, energetic reset. Tangent. It's the energetic reset, and this energetic reset is coming. It's here for everybody right now. It's here for everybody. And it's knocking on our door in various different ways. In some cases, it's bellowing. In some cases, it's flowing in, and people going, I know what this is because you've been doing it a long time. But it's here. It's here. It could be coming into that news where you've just walked in and you've been made redundant. You've just gone to the doctors and you've been told you're type 2 diabetic. You could have. It's coming in the way you've just crashed that car that still holds the old energy of when you were in your abusive partner. It's coming in so many different ways to give that bang moment, that big tower moment to clear the path so that we can then go forward. Could be coming in via dreams. And this isn't spiritual bypassing, it isn't happy clappy, it isn't thinking positive thoughts. This is where you've gone to the end. This is the dark night of the soul. This is coming out of the dark night of the soul. This is after the dance with the devil. This isn't, when something's just happened, you're just going to polish it. This is where you've been down into the underbelly and now you're coming up with the wisdom. They do say, don't they, that the shamans used to go and sit with the demons in the village and talk to the demons because the people in the villages were scared of the demons and what are they going to do to us? So the shamans would go and sit with the demons to find out and talk to the demons and find out how the demons worked so they could bring it back, the information back to the villagers. And yes, that's what we've been doing. We've been sitting with the demons. I'm not calling specific the demonic frequency because let's face it, kidnapping, murder, and torture is a demonic frequency. It's not angelic, is it? So you sit with that frequency to understand it. And you could have done it in a different way. Nine of Coins, your place in the world. This is also about us stepping out of victim and stepping into wise woman and wise man energy. It's about either, claiming your feathers. Not that we have headdresses on. Itchy eye. Claiming the coins, the wisdom, the earthiness, to reground, to come back to self. What wisdom have you gathered in your life from what you've gone through? And I'm also feeling as well that this, I know, hopefully none of us are close to transitioning, but there are many people are close to transitioning right now. And it's important that we clear the decks, that by the time we do get to a point of transition, that we're not laid in bed or in a car crash or whatever, festering, that we're not in emotional pain, that we're not replaying the old stories, that we're in a position of empowerment, forgiveness, compassion, unity, and joy, that we can depart this planet with peace. So maybe everything you've gone through has been getting you ready for that moment because it's really easy to, what was I going to say? It's really easy. That was interesting. It was like two messages came in at the same time then. Do you know something? When you've had an accident or you've been ill and you can't do something, so it could be getting a wash, it could be you can't wash up because you've got a rash, or you've broke your arm so you can't wash up, or you can't toilet yourself, or you can't wash your baby, or whatever. All of a sudden, there's a time that you think, oh God, I just wish I could pick a duster up and clean. But don't laugh at me, it does happen. God, I just wish I could chop some vegetables. God, I just wish I could, I don't know, run with my grandchildren because something's been taken from you. It's the same thing when you've had personal trauma. It's one of the reasons it's here is to help us and make us to appreciate the peace, is to appreciate the good times, is to remind us of the good times, is also to wake us up to the chaos that we are causing ourselves. and then we can go forward. Knight of Swords. But I'm also feeling with this card, this chaos energy of, you know, being our own worst enemy, running headlong into everything. These energies that we're getting are going to be really interesting. Page of Coins, ideas, the angels coming in with ideas. So I'm going to shuffle. Now let me pull a card from this deck. Great gratitude and healing light. It's great gratitude. It's when you can look back on the story and you've got great gratitude because you're like, God, actually, if that had never happened, I wouldn't be who I am today. And I actually think that about that. Not that I'm glad it happened. I'm not glad it happened for the person that was in the flat, but for me, I'm glad at some point my soul said I need to experience that. So put me in her path so I can experience that because one day that physical body there is going to want to become a healer and she ain't going to get all the information from a textbook when she's having to take entities of people and learn about abuse and all kinds of stuff. When she, learning about psychopomp, removal of spirits, etc. So it's great gratitude. I'm so thankful for that. I'm thankful for the experience. I feel enriched from the experience. The healing light, new beginnings. In meditation, visualize that card and that healing light that she's offering you. You could work with your guides, visualizing that light and taking that light, that healing light, and placing it, visualizing placing it into that trauma. Visualize placing it into an area of your body that you think's affected by it. So it could be that your heart's broken. So you'd take that ball of light and place it in and do it regular daily. Using colours as well, using, the golden ray, um, working with the archangels, going out into nature in the forest, getting out into the forests, um, making your life as wholesome as you can. And this does take time. Um, Giving yourself more self-respect as well. It's from your higher self. I think I've shared this story on here before. I was sat in Scotland in the summer and I was asking the universe, why did I have to go through a certain thing in my life? It wasn't this, it was something else. And I was sat and in fact, I'll tell you what it is because I think it'll help. We were sat and we were surrounded by lots of kids and families. And I was like, why have we never had children? I got a real moment of why have we never had children? I know why we haven't, by the way. And my higher self came in and says, shh, move out of the way because I decided it was to be so for the work that you needed to carry out and the healing you needed to do for yourself. And the higher self carried on talking and said, and many other higher selves have made this decision, but the physical vessel can't make peace with it. And they go and try and fight against it in various different ways. Well, it's almost like higher selves, you can call it the oversoul, the higher self, the soul. It goes even higher than the soul. It is the higher, it's the oversoul, the higher self. I'm intrigued to see what the next card is. Deserving, consciousness, yellow, golden rays. So the soul needs to experience certain things. And when we make peace with it, things can sometimes change. Things can because that can be the lesson that you make peace with it and you go, I'm at peace with that. And then it happens. It's like, whoa. Um, Make peace with it. Make peace if, you're not meant to meet someone later until later in life. Make peace with the fact that whatever it is you need to make peace with. Because another thing I was shown as well in the summer was that there's a lot going on in this world at the minute. And it's only right that each one of us should take a bit of that. And you may be sat there thinking, well, I've took a lot in my life, Claire. Do you know, compared to some people, you haven't. I could have gone much further into what went on here, and I didn't. I mean, I'll sit and hear a lot of mums having a moan about children, teenage children, adult children, just putting my jumper down. And I always think, God, if her mum could have that gripe instead of the issues that she did have and does have. Um, when you hear, oh, I wish she'd leave her, she's nothing but trouble, and a lot of the time it's just clash of personalities. Things are made way too bigger than they need to be. So let's bring it into parents, making peace with who your children are. Really thinking, because a lot of the time I can get it with a parent that, you know, it can take a lot from you, but there's a lot coming up in relation to parenting. Your child may not be doing the course you want them to do, or they may be dating the girl you're not keen on, or the boy you're not keen on, or they may be who they are. They may be, but at least they're safe. Um, yeah. Hmm. Let's do something else. So, in relation to those people in our world that have done dark deeds, and the aspects of us that have done it as well, because we have, what's coming through, what's the teaching, what's coming in now and next in the evolution of consciousness. So we're all in this. It's not about them and us anymore. We're all in this. If you could see every single past life you've ever had played out on a screen, you would see that you've been everything, unless you're a brand new soul. 5 of Swords, 8 of Swords, restriction, coming out of restriction. Let me take the next one. 9 of Swords. I'm going to keep pulling. Knight of Swords. Page of Coins. 5. 7 of Coins. 7 of Cups. The Tower. I'll do one more. And the Queen of Coins. Knowledge is power. So, let me do a card from this deck as well. Optimism and planning and action. So this is for all aspects of us that have done horrific deeds in this life, in past lives. It's for those in our life that have done horrific deeds to us. So it's this ray of optimism that's trying to break through the shell. It's trying to awaken them. It's the Garden of Eden energy that wants to come in to show them something else, to show them that whatever got them to that point, be it the neglect, the abuse, society, poverty, lack of education, what were they? It could have been the education system that did it. Whatever caused it, this is a new ray that wants to come in. It's a new frequency that wants to come in. It's a new consciousness that wants to come in, and it's card number one. So this is something that I feel possibly they haven't we and they haven't experienced before. And it's almost like stop battling. 5 of Swords, and it's chaos. It's like, what? The battlefield is in chaos. This blinding lights come down, and it's blinding. And it's everyone's in battle. They can't see who they're fighting, and it's just frozen. But what's gonna come up with this is this anxiety and fear. I can't look at this. I can't look at this. Complete mental trauma, complete mental breakdowns will be coming. Some people losing themselves in it, not realizing that they actually can come out of this, but it's part of the purge. There will be this combative energy as well. This no, I will not listen energy, this combative energy, this real purge. You may be seeing it in people in your own life. There may be something, you may be sat there and reminded of something you've said and gone, oh, and you actually do get a bit of mental conflict. So there's various different levels of this. Then the page of coins where it feels as though there's a crack and they've actually been able to come in, that your guide, your angels, the lights, able to come in and just balance things. Also, as well, with that Knight of Swords, I also feel there's an aspect here of I can't take this anymore. I've got to change. I've got to change. And there may be a big oomph in that change, and people around them are like, what they're doing, they're going at it, They may be going to loads of AA meetings, or they may be going to loads of ayahuasca ceremonies, or shamanic ceremonies, or therapy, or whatever, and really hitting it hard to try and boom, break through it. And then we've got the Seven of Coins, being able to see issues more clearly, being able to make sense of it, being able to see the higher teaching, the abundance. And as the earth continues to change, so these solar flares, geomagnetic storms, all of it, it's going to keep bringing in these pulses, keep bringing in these pulses, keep bringing in these pulses of change. Some of these situations will be people changing overnight. Some of them will go through a lot. Some of them will make it harder than what it needs to be. Some of them will still be punishing themselves because what Spirit are also saying to me is you don't realize how many bad people actually punish themselves without realizing it. Self-sabotaging. Then we've got the Seven of Cups where Spirit hold it up. It's like the clearing with your guides, making sense of things, making sense of emotions, making peace with emotions, and the illusion that can come with this card as well, where everything feels illusion and we're not sure what's happening. I don't know what it is, but something's shifted in me. I've had a weird dream last, that kind of thing. Um, I remember I, there was a man over the road who was a bit of a jock lad in his day. He was an elderly fella and he was near to dying, and he was a criminal in his day. And he was a non-believer, and his wife died. And as he was getting older and became more and more disabled, one morning he had an experience where he had a spiritual experience, and it changed him. This may actually trigger a lot of people that have been on the path a while, and all of a sudden you may be seeing people around you that, no, it comes in, and because I'm feeling it for some people, it needs to. Um, that's interesting. There's been this seeding of this energy for some years now, different pulse points, but now it's starting to come in quicker for people. So you may go, it took me 5 years. It took me 10 years to get to this. And look at her there. She did this, she's done that, she's caused all this pain, and look at her now. And she maybe actually turned into a really nice person overnight like that. Because actually a lot of people are starting to be able to shift this really quickly. Um, because we've been through a seeding process, if that makes sense. And the clearing, the tower, there's going to be more tower moments, weather moments, global moments, personal moments, clearing, rebalancing. And this is all part of the Queen of Coins energy, the Queen of Pentacles, the wisdom. There is a card I need to pull. They got this card when I pulled it privately. The Four of Cups. There's no getting away from this. The Magician. And that's how we go forward, and that's how they go forward as well. So it's profound, but it's liberating. The Hanged Man, needing to change our perspective. And I actually played with this the other day. I thought, I'd love to actually hear that they'd gone. Because I remember actually hearing that one of them in particular, well, one of them in particular was friends with Rose West in prison. Used to share knitting patterns with her apparently. But one of them was doing fitness training in prison, and I remember getting really triggered at the time. And I remember this was years ago, thinking, this is not on. This is not on. She's in prison and she's getting access to all of these courses that I can't get access to on the outside. And that was, by the way, poor me. And I remember at the time thinking, well, what do you want? I actually heard a voice in my head say, well, what would you prefer, Claire, them to come back more battered than they went in? And I was like, what do you mean? And this voice that I now know what it was like, well, surely when someone goes into prison, you want them to be helped. And actually coming into that now, yes, we do. We don't want the keys to be locked up and throw away the key. We need a change in the systems. We need a change in what goes on in prisons. That prisons should not be places. Oh, I don't believe in 1 minute that prisons should be places where they are where where like they are now, or like aspects of them are now. They should be places of rehabilitation. They should be places of love. In fact, I think they should serve cacao every day in prison. I do. Um, as part of hot chocolate. Meditation. I was actually thinking about, if there's anybody watching can help me with this, doing meditations in prison voluntary or Reiki in prisons voluntary. Um, I do believe that they should be having people in there doing meditation. I know they have speakers going in, but Reiki people going in, shamanic healing. Oh, they need it in prisons. Um, meditation circles, education, life skills, how to cook, how to clean, how to look after themselves, therapy, all of it. And let's face it, as we're having this conversation, we're also thinking there's a few people on outside that need that. There's a council, God, a council estate central today. There's a council estate in Leeds that there's a pub called the Old Red Lion, and but it's trashed, and McDonald's wanting to buy it, and they're all like, oh, rubbing their hands together because they're going to get a McDonald's. And then there's other people coming and saying it's an area of concern, and they're now starting to realise that McDonald's is not good for mental health. We know that, don't we? Anyway, and I was like, wouldn't it be lovely if they all said, can you not build as a unit or put a unit in there, a community hub where there's guidance on washing, cleaning, home economics, all of that kind of stuff. In fact, I was thinking the other day, the flat where she was tortured, I would love to. Obviously, it's a council flat, so I'm not going to buy it. Can't buy it, can I? You can't buy a council flat, can you? No, you can't. You can buy your own, but anyway, you could buy your own back in the day. I don't know. And I thought, imagine if you get that and turn it into some type of a hub. That's how you alchemize, where you can turn it into a place where, I don't know, you can do therapies, you can do a Reiki. It's all a charity. It's all charity. And people can come in to teach people how to cook, clean, look after the house, raise children. All different people coming at different times. And I thought, what a great way to alchemize the energy in that flat, um, etc. See how great things, and when you can start thinking like that, you kind of know that you're turning a corner. You do. Um, I do wonder whether one day I'll be called to do some voluntary work down there. Um, yes, that's interesting. She's actually just said to me, why don't you do a Reiki grid where you can send Reiki to anyone in the area that wants to receive it? Where basically a Reiki bomb goes over the area, and it's not healing the area or saving the area for humanity. It's not that. It's you just send Reiki to the area, and anyone that needs it can pull it in. And they won't, obviously physically they won't know, but anyone that's feeling, oh yes, I might do that. I will do that. That's, you see, there's always something you can do. If you want to do that with your own stuff, this isn't about healing somebody or healing them. It's about, I'm going to send a bubble of Reiki over, and it's there if they want it. It's there if the land wants it. It's not interfering or trying to save the world, because that doesn't work. Let's look at other ways that we can do that for people watching. Um, being a good person. Being a good person, being mindful of how you're bringing your children up, um, Bring your children up as wholesome as you can. Um, be mindful of life partners that you're choosing where you're going to procreate. Um, Journaling, letter writing, letters that you don't send, obviously. Um, you can send Reiki to your past version of yourself as well. Send Reiki to the past version of you. You can send Reiki to you going to the past event. So I'd do it where I'd send it to that. You know, when you're doing a distant Reiki, not a distant Reiki, when you're doing a Reiki session with a client, you can use a distance symbol to send it to somewhere. So say if you came to me and said, I was abused in the 1980s, could you send Reiki there? I would send Reiki there as well as doing you at the same time. Um, you can do a bit of land clearance if you're up to it, where you can use color. So, oh, that's interesting as well. If you've had a house where you've had pain or you've had a bad divorce or you were abused, you can use colors. So you could use the Archangel Michael Ray blue for, cleansing it. You could use the green for healing. This is for you personally. This isn't, I'm going to heal the house. You'd have to get me in for that. Or somebody else. This is something for you on your own. So you're not going watching this video thinking, well, I feel really helpless now. Thanks very much, Claire. Because people always say, how can I do that? So you can do that. You can make a grid up. You can get crystals. You can use sound, crystals, grid, get altar. By the way, some of you asked about where I got that altar cloth from for the group healing. Um, oh God, Lemurian Star Child on Etsy. I get a lot of altar cloths. They do some lovely altar cloths. Lemurian Star Child. They're the same people that do the Lemurian Star Child Oracle. So you can set grids up, you can set a grid up with crystals, with whatever. Um, you can have it as part of your daily meditation practice, so you can sit down with your favorite crystals, whatever you're drawn to, and you can meditate and talk to your guides and ask them to show you personally what you can do for that situation. And what we're working towards is getting you to a point where namaste. And you're not just saying namaste like people do. You really genuinely mean it in your gut. And you can step into that. Visualizing the colours of that card. Yellow, golds, greens, reds, oranges, purple, is there? Purple ray. You can also use a flame inside. You can use a flame, like a candle flame that comes inside you and grows out like that to cleanse yourself. The purple flame, doing the same with the purple flame. Um, you can write down the name of the event. You could put, I don't know, the abuse, or write a letter about it. You could journal it or do like you would in a letter. Write it down compassionately as well, not doing crazy stuff. Compassionately, being kind and caring to yourself. Write it all down, and then hands above it, white light it, healing it, talking to it, praying over it. Um, Some of you also need to give permission to these people energetically to embrace this light. Now, I don't mean ringing them up and saying, Barbara, I know you were a cowbag. I'm not saying Barbara's a cowbag, by the way, but you know what I mean. You're all right, you can ascend. It's not that I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not. But what I'm saying to you in your head, you can say, I give you permission to accept the light. Let's do it all right now. So think of those people. I'll think of those five, and you think of yours right now. Visualize them at a safe distance. I give you permission to heal, awaken, ascend, understand, and reach a high level of enlightenment. I free you. There you go. You can say, myself now. We've just done it on 1010 Portal. We've just done it in the middle of a solar flare. My cheeks are flushed with the energy. Um, yes. Have we enjoyed this session? This is where the computer has crashed. Has it? No, it has not. Um, have you enjoyed this video? Let me know in the comments. Um, final cards for those watching. It's been an interesting video. 10 of coins. That's how we pass the wisdom on. It's how we break the chain. It's how we stop this chaos following. It's how it stops with me. Now I know I've not got children, but I've got nieces I could affect. I've got nephew I could affect. I could have impact on Gary as well. I could have impact on all kinds of people, but it stops with me. Whatever I experience stops with me, and it goes forward in a different way. And this is how we heal generational stuff. And this isn't just about family stuff. It's about us all as an Earth family, because we talk about generational healing as a your own personal blood family, but it's the whole the Ace of Swords. It's how we cut through it, how we embrace the sun and go forward into our joy zone. One more card, and your Queen of Coins comes out again, and that's where you get your wise woman. That's when you become your wise woman, your wise man, your wise one. That's when you're actually free. Once you can start doing that, and the more you start doing it, you start doing it with other stuff as well. And you get to a point where there's a lot of emotion and a lot of tiredness comes up with it, but you start to enjoy life a little bit more, and you realize that life is for living and that the karmic load is released. Final card for this reading. Planning and action. Keep it real, keep it grounded, and that's how we travel, moving forward and moving out of these old stories. I'm going to pull two more cards. The loving woman, and that's how you become a loving version of yourself. And that's how you're able to embrace joyous fun. You'll attract in the new friends and colleagues and the happier times. I'm going to keep pulling. You'll leave the deception behind you, and this will start to, there will still be people around you that will do this and get jealous of and get triggered, but it's fine. What card comes after? The Sacred Temple. This is how you leave these different, heavier, denser dimensions and ways of being, each and every one of us. And it causes ripples across the pond. Well, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me just straighten these cards up, because I do have a habit of knocking them off. If you want to book a session with me, you can do. I always forget to do that. Website is below. Mentoring, readings, healings, group healings. Enjoy the weekend. It's warm in here. When you start doing energy work, you get right warm. Yeah, some energy flowing in this video. And I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for spending some time with me. And I will see you later.